Hello and welcome. Tonight, 2 more bodies recovered from the Port Harcourt helicopter crash, bringing to 5 the total number of confirmed deaths in the ill-fated accident. Chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Victor Atta, criticizes the scrapping of the Niger Delta Ministry. And Amnesty applauds the federal government's rejection of $1.3 billion sale of Shell's onshore assets.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's central bank says it is considering issuance of a diaspora bond in the United States next year.
On sports news tonight, nighttime African champions, the Super Falcons, set for Algeria's Green Ladies in Saturday's international friendly clash at Remo Star Sports Complex in Ikenne, Ogun State.
And from Abuja, Kano State Independent Electoral Commission insists on going ahead with the conduct of the local government elections scheduled for Saturday.
And in international news from London, the 2 candidates vying for the White House are taking a break from targeting votes in battleground states to campaign in Texas.
Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo says that the divers deployed to the scene of the helicopter crash yesterday at the Atlantic Ocean near Finima Boni off the coast of Port Harcourt during a routine flight are still at work to find the remaining bodies and the wreckage. In a statement sent through his X handle today, Mr. Keyamo adds that the Aviation Ministry will be making a more comprehensive press statement as soon as it achieves some breakthrough. This comes as 2 more bodies have been recovered following the helicopter crash, bringing the total number of fatalities to 5. The helicopter, which was engaged by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, is said to have 8 passengers on board. It took off from the Port Harcourt military base heading towards an oil rig facility before crashing along the waterways near Finima Boni. The Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, Captain Alex Bade Jr., was a guest on our breakfast program Sunrise Daily, and he gave us an update on the crash.
We know a couple more bodies have been recovered. The helicopter is down about 40 meters of water. So recovery of the wreckage will be a little difficult over the next coming weeks or coming days. We'll try to recover the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder. Obviously, right now, the priority is to recover the rest of the bodies there from the helicopter.
How many more bodies have been recovered?
2 more at this time.
So if we get it right, as of yesterday, we're told 3 people were killed in that crash. Apparently, there are a lot more because we understand there were 8 people on board the helicopter. Is it possible that none of them survived?
Yeah, unfortunately, at this time, that's the working theory. They've recovered 2 more bodies, making a total of 5. There are 3 more down there that hopefully will be recovered today.
Do you think that there is any way that they might have been able to make it out alive, the remaining 3 people?
I mean, the human being is resilient. As long as they have their life support devices, there's a chance that we might find survivors there.
So tell us.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has ordered an intensified search and rescue operation for passengers of the ill-fated helicopter crash. In a statement by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, President Tinubu urges military officers involved in various operations in the zone to join the rescue mission and provide all necessary support to the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and other relevant agencies. The President also condoles with the board and staff of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the families of those who unfortunately died in the accident. The recent abolition of the Ministry of Niger Delta, announced by the presidency earlier this week, has been criticized as a setback for the region. A former governor of Akwa Ibom State and chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Mr. Victor Atta, voiced his disapproval during the annual Special General Assembly of the Forum held in Port Harcourt, River State. However, the Minister of State, Petroleum, Oil, Heineken Lokbobori, who was also in attendance, clarified that the ministry was not abolished, but rather rebranded and expanded to oversee all regional development commissions. Our correspondent, Deborah Agbalama, reports.
The Pan-Niger Delta General Assembly is a yearly gathering of key regional stakeholders to discuss the future of the Niger Delta. This year's meeting is particularly significant as it also marks the election of new executives to lead the organization for the next 4 years. The outgoing chairman, Senator Emmanuel Essien, delivers a speech that dwells on fostering peace and unity for sustainable development of the Niger Delta region, which is the theme for this year's assembly.
To promote sustainable development, we must strive to create and maintain an environment conducive to socio-economic advancement and community resilience by prioritizing collaborative efforts among stakeholders.
Next, the co-chairman of PANDEF's Board of Trustees and former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Victor Atta, criticizes the federal government's decision to abolish the Ministry of Niger Delta.
Niger Delta is a defined geographic area. Nobody doubts the dam boundaries of the Niger Delta. But suddenly, NDDC was searching for Imo, Abia, everybody that had oil. So I asked, why don't we go back to Umpadek? Let there be oil producing areas commission, rather than pretend that it's a commission for developing the Niger Delta.
The Minister of State for Petroleum, Heineken Lopobiri, disagrees, pointing out instead that the ministry was only rebranded and expanded, not scrapped.
I never said that South Development Commission is going to replace the Minister of Niger Delta. No, I didn't say so. I said, look, the Minister of Niger Delta is now expanded, to coordinate all regional development agencies, still under the leadership of a Niger Delta son.
The PANDEF Special General Assembly concludes with the announcement of new executives chosen by consensus and in line with the organization's zoning formula. The new executives include Dr. Godnose Egali as National Chairman, Basi Ekefre as Deputy National Chairman, and Dr. Ubio Wevi Ominiomini as National Spokesperson, amongst others. According to their mandate as read by their leadership, the new executives are tasked with upholding PANDEF as the voice of the Niger Delta and spearheading initiatives for regional development. Deborah Abalama, Channels Television News.
International human rights organization Amnesty International is on the same page with the federal government in its decision to not sanction the planned sale of onshore assets by the Shell Petroleum Development Company. The federal government, through the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, the NUPRC, had rejected the proposed $1.3 billion sale of Shell's onshore oil fields to the Renaissance Group, citing the buyer's lack of qualification to manage the assets and liabilities. This decision is now being applauded by Amnesty International as they insist that any multinational oil company seeking to divest from the Niger Delta must account for decades of human rights abuses related to oil spills which have polluted the environment of the region. Speaking at a press conference in Port Harcourt, the head business and human rights of Amnesty International, Mark Dumet, says while it believes that Shell will not relent in pushing for the proposed sale, the Nigerian government must not allow the company evade remediation of the Niger Delta environment, its contaminated drinking water and poisoned agricultural land.
We know that the NUPRC has spoken about its divestment framework, and this divestment framework criteria includes protections includes protections around the environment and the capacity of the successor company. So on that basis, we can say and hope that the NUPRC has applied those criteria properly and shares our concerns about the identity and the capacity of the successor company to take on Shell's assets. But we do call on the NUPRC in the interests of transparency and accountability to publish in detail its decision, as well as publish its decision over those other divestments. And under international human rights standards, Shell cannot just cut and run. Shell needs to meet its own human rights responsibilities. And even now that the NUPRC has put a block on its divestment, it still needs to take action to improve hugely how it responds to this crisis in the Niger Delta.
To labor issues now, members of the Joint Health Sector Unions and Assembly of Healthcare Professionals have announced a 7-day warning strike commencing from midnight October the 26th. Now, the latest strike comes after a 15-day notice of industrial action issued to the federal government. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the national chairman of the union, Mr. Kabiru Manjibir, says some of its demands include the immediate implementation of the consolidated health salary structure, payment of 25% review of its arrears from June to December 2023, upward review of retirement age for health workers, tax waiver on healthcare workers' allowances, and the immediate payment of COVID-19 inducement hazard allowance, among other demands. The body is asking all its members across the country to comply with the directive.
With effect from midnight of today, 25th October 2024, in the federal health institutions shall embark on 7 days strike action. However, if at the end of the 7 days warning strike, the federal government fails to meet our demands, JHESU have no other option than to embark on an indefinite strike action. Nigerians should note that this action could have been avoided if the federal government had, within the windows of the 15 days notice of strike or ultimatum, was responded by utilizing all options available in the relevant provisions of the Trade Dispute Act, Cap T8 laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to apprehend this dispute of rights. JHESU is always committed to the use of the instrumentality of social dialogue to resolve matters affecting the welfare and working conditions of members. We shall therefore keep all our channels of communication open during this period of 7 days warning strike. The general public should bear with us all inconveniences the withdrawal of services of health workers under the umbrella of JHESU might cause during this period.
In part 2, after the break, court refuses to stay proceedings in suit seeking to stop River State local government funds. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. 2 more bodies recovered from the Port Harcourt helicopter crash, bringing to 5 the total number of confirmed deaths in the ill-fated accident. Chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Victor Atta, criticizes the scrapping of the Niger Delta Ministry. Amnesty International applauds the federal government's rejection of $1.3 billion sale of Shell's onshore assets. And Kansiek insists on going ahead with the conduct of the local government election as scheduled for Saturday. The government is again reiterating its commitments to a free and responsible press and to the promotion of media and information literacy for all citizens. Speaking in Abuja on the occasion of the celebration of this year's National Global Media and Information Literacy Week, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, says there is a need to check the nation's digital landscape, which poses serious challenges, especially with the spread of misinformation and disinformation. The minister adds that Nigerians need to be empowered to critically assess the information they encounter, discern credible sources, and engage responsibly with media content.
To mark the 2024 National Global Media and Information Literacy Week, media practitioners and other stakeholders converged on the conference room of the National Open University of Nigeria. The Vice-Chancellor of the National Open University kickstarts the conversation, highlighting the challenges posed by misinformation and disinformation.
Emerging technologies such as generative artificial intelligence and the rise of a new generation of digital content creators are reshaping the way public interest information is produced, shared, and consumed. Whilst these developments offer remarkable opportunities, Honorable Minister Sir, they also present profound challenges that the world must address.
A representative of UNESCO speaks about the need to address these challenges.
While the digital revolution has enabled the spread of democratic ideas and the diversity of cultural expression, it now poses serious challenges for our democracies as disinformation and hate speech proliferate on social networks, particularly revolving around conflicts and crises.
Making sound judgments in the face of conflicting narratives is the focus of the federal government as the media practitioners receive assurances of a free press.
This digital landscape with its limitless opportunities also poses serious challenges, especially with the spread of misinformation, disinformation, fake news, whether created by humans or generated by the artificial intelligence. We must really work hard and think out of the box to find creative ways out of this menace. Therefore, it has become imperative and crucial that we empower our citizens with the tools they need to navigate this complex information environment, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence, which will make it more complex.
With the theme New Digital Frontiers of Information, Media and Information Literacy for Public Interest Information, the federal government is optimistic that the practitioners will create an environment where responsible media practices flourish and where the public is equipped to engage with information critically.
Let's now head to the nation's capital, where Victoria Long John is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Victoria.
Thank you, Ayo. A High Court in Kano has directed the State Independent Electoral Commission, (CANSEC), to proceed with the local government elections scheduled for Saturday, October the 26th. Justice Sanusi Maaji of the Kano State High Court issued the order following a case filed by the State Electoral Commission against the All Progressives Congress and 13 others. This directive comes despite a recent Federal High Court ruling nullifying the appointment of CANSEC's chairman and other members who were appointed by Governor Abba Yusuf to conduct the elections.
It's less than 24 hours for the Kano Independent Electoral Commission, (CANSEC), to conduct local government elections across the 44 local governments in the state. The police have announced their resolve to comply with the Federal High Court judgment that restricts them from taking part in the election.
The position of the law is very clear. Section 4 of the Police Act 2020 as amended provides the responsibility of the Nigeria Police Force, which is protection of life and property. And of course, you are very much aware of the court order received by the police command here in Kano. Item 9 of the order provided that the police should not participate in the coming local government election in the state. The police in Kano are not participating in the election.
Entrances to the Commission's headquarters have been closed following a Federal High Court judgment which had earlier halted the elections, ruling that CANSEC's set-up under Governor Yusuf was illegal. But the Kano State High Court has now given a green light for the polls to proceed.
By way of procedure, 3 months after nomination are sufficiently required for you to agree or disagree. But that was never done until when we had less than 6 days to election. And this election was constitutional. It's a fundamental constitutional requirement.
The Commission has responded to the ruling that it will proceed with the local council elections as planned.
I want to call on the Kano State citizen to please conduct themselves lawfully while casting their vote tomorrow.
Meanwhile, the Emir of Kano, Alhaji Muhammadu Sanusi II, has called on the people of the state to remain peaceful as the state prepares for tomorrow's local government elections.
To my people in Kano, as you are aware, tomorrow, inshallah, there will be local government elections in all the 44 local government areas in the state. all of those who love Kano, I am sure will agree with me that there is nothing we need more than preservation of the peace and security of the state.
Going by this, the local government elections will hold in Kano despite all the hurdles, with the hope that peace is maintained during the process. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
And still at the court, Justice Joyce Abdulmalik of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has reserved judgment in a suit seeking to stop allocation of funds to all the local government areas of Rivers State. Justice Abdulmalik also dismissed a request by the Rivers State government to stay proceedings in the suit. The Martin Amirili-led Rivers State House of Assembly had dragged the Central Bank of Nigeria to court, praying the trial court to withhold fund allocation to the Rivers State local governments. The courtroom of Justice Joyce Abdulmalik at the Federal High Court in Abuja was packed with senior advocates, junior lawyers and the public for the hearing of a lawsuit filed by Mr. Martins Amiawele. Mr. Amiawele is seeking a court order to withhold allocation of funds intended for local government areas in Rivers State. During the resumed hearing, the state government raised an objection to the case being heard in Abuja, an objection which the court ultimately rejected. In declining the state's request for a stay of proceedings, Justice Abdulmalik called the request frivolous and unwarranted. The Accountant General of Rivers State later filed a motion of notice alleging bias on the part of Justice Abdulmalik against him and other defendants. Counsel to the Accountant General, Mr. Tuturu Edem, criticized the judge's handling of the proceedings, an argument supported by the Central Bank of Nigeria and other defendants who requested that jurisdiction be transferred to the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt. In a brief ruling, Justice Abdulmalik dismissed the bias accusation and denied the request to transfer jurisdiction, stating that the Federal High Court's jurisdiction extends nationwide. The court then proceeded with the substantive issues in the case, adjourning to a date to be communicated for judgment. And still ahead on the news at 10, the Central Bank of Nigeria says it is considering the issuance of a diaspora bond in the United States next year. That's some business news to join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. The FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, is calling for a review of the procurement law, citing the challenge it poses to expeditious project execution. Mr. Wike said this during the official flag-off ceremony of the development of Arterial Road N5 from the Life Camp Junction to Ring Road 3. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
Very much, my sister Eugenia.
It's the day 5 of the Abuja City Project's flag-off exercise, and officials of the FCT administration, led by the minister, and members of the 10th National Assembly, other dignitaries and management team of the Federal Capital Development Authority. The Executive Secretary of the FCDA accentuates the scope of the project, while the contractor gives everyone an idea of the time frame for delivery.
This road as an arterial is a 6-lane arterial with 3 lanes on either way, dual carriageway, and we are expecting that this road is going to provide the much needed relief to the Old Kefi Road right behind us, which connects this Life Camp Junction up to Dede.
The road, over approximately 4.4 kilometers, inclusive of box culverts, 1 river bridge, and the road junction at N5 and 30, will be delivered within 18 months construction time, and Julius Berger will deliver as promised.
When the minister of the FCT took to the podium, he raised a point of concern for the National Assembly.
Part of our major headache is the procurement law. The procurement law, yes, is to protect and make sure our money is safe. But again, if you look at the overall advantage, it drags us backward. But thank God, Mr. President, in his infinite wisdom, to make sure that work continues in the FCT. He gave us a latitude.
He then speaks on the economic viability of the project.
Those who are living around there will be allowed to have one form or the other in terms of employment. Not only are we providing infrastructure, we're also trying to create jobs.
The representative of the Senate President, Senator Ibrahim Bomai, didn't respond to the minister's request for law reforms. Instead, he spotlights the socio-economic benefit of roads infrastructure.
The importance of road network to socio-economic development of any nation need not to be overemphasized. Good roads are critical to and hinder movement of goods and persons in promoting socio-economic development in any community.
After his speech, he then proceeds to flag off the project in the company of the minister. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Umo Eno has given assurances of his administration's commitment to supporting positive-minded youth in the state to achieve success in their chosen areas of endeavor. The governor gave the assurance while commissioning the Goreti Girls Secondary School Road in Ikotekpene as part of his administration's efforts to open all parts of the state for development.
Residents of Akwa Ibom State gathered to witness the official commissioning of Spring Road, popularly known as Goreti Girls Secondary School Road because of its proximity to the school. Their joy knows no bounds as they sing and dance in appreciation to the governor for the construction of the road, which had been impassable for decades. Stakeholders of the area thanked the state government for the construction.
Your Excellency, the children were climbing tunnels, to go to school. The parents were crying for help, but you came as the compassionate governor, and without mincing word, you did a fantastic job on this road.
During the construction of this Spring Road, I paid the contractor around how many times I could on this project. Because this project is a project that touched us in Ikotekpene.
Governor Umoeno expresses satisfaction with the quality of work done by the contractor, who is a young engineer from Akwa Ibom State. He promises more life-touching projects for the people. The governor also calls on youths from the state in all sectors of the economy to take advantage of his administration's youth-friendly policies to develop their talents.
We'll continue to work with our teams and we'll continue to deliver the dividend of democracy. But what trips me about this road beyond the commissioning is the contractor. When I came into office, I threw a challenge to our young people. And I said, rather than wait for money to be thrown up in the air for us to struggle, we need to raise young, committed youths that can show us capacity. And I said then that if we find such youths, we will encourage them. One of such youths happened to be the managing director of UNK, the company that constructed this road. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The governor is billed to commission a number of other projects in the days ahead.
And that's it from Abuja. It's now back to you, Ayo, for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Victoria. MTN Foundation has commissioned the remodeled ICT laboratory at Boys Secondary School, Oraifite, in the Kusigo local government area of Anambra State. The project, according to the director of MTN Foundation, Mr. Dennis Okoro, is part of the company's vision to equip and connect people to thrive in the future of digital technology, as well as provide purposeful education to students.
Boys Boys Secondary School, Orifite, in Ekusigo local government area of Anambra State has a touch of yellow at the entrance gate and inside the school premises, and the reason is not far-fetched. The schoolboys are visibly excited to welcome the MTN Foundation team, who are here on a noble vision.
The presence of the director.
It is the commissioning ceremony and guests, community members and stakeholders, as well as teachers and students, converge to witness the event.
Through the MTN Foundation, Boys Secondary School Orifite got their ICT laboratory modeled with brand new furniture, 20 brand new laptops, computers, configured for learning, an alternative power supply, that is the solar energy.
Speaking on the unwavering dedication of the MTN Foundation to support education fit for purpose, the Regional General Manager East, Mr. Kalima Inino, and the Director of MTN Foundation, Mr. Dennis Okoro, say the students are being empowered for the future.
The purpose of MTN is a body that we believe that everyone deserves the benefit of a modern connected life.
Part of our 2025 philosophy is digitally driven education. And we've done it in so many, up to 40 secondary to date.
The students are not left out in applauding the initiative.
Any community, even as local as you can imagine, that has no MTN network, the right answer is no, right?
Its robust infrastructure ensures critical communication.
On their part, the traditional ruler of Orifite and the representative of the chairman of the post-primary schools service urged the students to utilize their amenities responsibly.
I advise our children here in the Orifite Grammar School or Orifite Boys High School to seize this opportunity to aim, to aspire to be Bill Gates of the future.
We appreciate the transformative impact this project will have on our students, teachers, and the entire community in general.
The high point of the event is the commissioning of the remodeled ICT laboratory by the director of MTN Foundation, after which he, alongside others, inspects the already functional facility. The students say they are ready to make the best of this opportunity. In the meantime, they have a bold message for MTN Foundation as captured on their laptops.
Business News is up next with Dominic Iwiwu.
Thank you, Ayotunde. On business news, the Nigerian government is contemplating the issuance of a diaspora bond in the United States next year, and that's according to the central bank governor, Olayemi Cardoso. He made this known today in an interview at the ongoing meetings of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank in Washington, D.C. The central bank governor hinted that the proposed debt instrument would target the United States, which is home to the largest population of Nigerians overseas, as it aims to secure $1 billion monthly remittance inflows from the diaspora bond. In August this year, Nigeria successfully floated the first-time $500 million domestic bond on the local market, which attracted funds held abroad by Nigerians at home and in the diaspora. The International Monetary Fund is insisting that the subsidy regime, be for the petroleum, motor spirits or foreign exchange, was not sustainable. The Director of Africa Department, Abebe Selassie, who was speaking with journalists during the regional briefing for sub-Saharan Africa at the IMF World Bank meeting, says the institution is advocating strong social buffers amidst the reforms.
It wasn't the case that, when subsidies were significant, when the exchange rate was being kept at an artificial level. There was other imbalances that were present in the economy, including very, very high levels of inflation. Reserves were, being run out. Government's ability to borrow from markets was, of course, heavily compromised. And this is this was the really invidious, really difficult trade-off that governments in Nigeria over recent years have faced. This inability to have a healthy macroeconomic situation, one that will foster growth, diversification, resources to invest in health and education that were needed, because so much resources were being used by fuel subsidies. So that's the first point I want to make, that it's not, I'm not sure kind of the situation predating the recent changes was a sustainable one.
Government needs to synergize with the private sector for smooth running of businesses and its sustainability to enable businesses thrive. This is according to the chairman of Odua Board, Mr. Bimbo Ashiru. He made this known at the commissioning of some of the renovated facilities of the iconic Cocoa House, Dugbe, Ibadan. Mr. Bimbo Ashiru notes that the federal government needs to commit to the ease of doing business with the provision of adequate incentives, security and economic infrastructure.
Government has no business in business. Governments must create that enabling environment for business to thrive. And how do you do that? Ensure, ease of doing business is very key. Once you create that enabling environment for them and you protect, you see, the bane of this thing is the fact that people don't listen and watch. You have to look at the dynamics, look at what the businesses want, what the investors want. An investor is very selfish because they want to be sure that their business is protected and they want to have enhanced return on their investment. So if you don't have enough, how will you do that? And what government needs to do now is to ensure that many of these laws are created to make things easy for them, to protect them. But as a regional government, I can tell you, I remember our last visit to the Vice President. He said Odua investment is the only regional investment in the whole of this country that is still existing. And not only that it's existing, it's waxing stronger.
The local boss ends Friday's trading session with a 5th consecutive day winning streak as investors continue bargain hunting for high-value equities. Laddie Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the TGIF trading lived up to expectation with a bullish trend that started on Monday, taking the market cap to about 60 trillion naira. All-share index up 0.26%. If we look at the market mover today, that's a new kid on the block, Arido Holdings. It was mostly profit-taking this week. But if you bought that dip, then definitely you're in profit now. It's up to 600 naira to close, up about Now, we see a very positive week for the banking counter. The index started at about 930 points, ending at 999 points, almost at 1,000 there, closing today at 0.76%. Consumer goods also in the green, and oil and gas counter. Most of the counters we track all in the green. Well, it's a good week for the bulls. We'll see if this plays into next week.
And that's it on business news. Back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Dominic. A Ugandan court has sentenced the former commander in the notorious Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, to 40 years in prison following a landmark war crimes trial. Thomas Koyelo was found guilty of 44 charges, including murder, rape, kidnapping, and pillaging. But he denied all charges against him. Here's Simon Pearson with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The two candidates vying for the White House are taking a break from targeting votes in battleground states to campaign in Texas. Donald Trump, here courting voters in Las Vegas, Nevada earlier, will visit Austin to record an episode of The Joe Rogan Experience, the biggest podcast in the US. The appearance is part of the Trump campaign's calculated media strategy, which is focused on podcasts popular with younger men over traditional media outlets.
4 years ago, we had no inflation. We were energy independent. We were strong as hell. Nobody was playing games with us. Nobody was threatening us. The Middle East wasn't fighting. Russia wasn't going into Ukraine. They never would have gone. What a shame. What a mess we are in the world. The whole world is in a mess.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, who drew around 20,000 people in the battleground state of Georgia for a star-studded rally with rock legend Bruce Springsteen and the former President Barack Obama, is set to appear at a campaign event in Houston alongside Beyoncé.
Just 12 days left in one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, And I don't need to tell you voting has already started. And everybody here knows it's going to be a tight race until the very end. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. But we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work is joyful work. And make no mistake, we will win. We will win. We will win.
Two brothers who were convicted of murdering their parents in a case that shook America more than 3 decades ago are a step closer to being released on parole.
Good afternoon, everyone.
A Los Angeles County District Attorney has recommended that Eric and Lyle Menendez be resentenced by a judge because new evidence merited a review. The 1989 murders of Kitty and Jose Menendez in their Beverly Hills mansion has gripped the U.S. for years, recently inspiring a popular Netflix series. For the brothers to gain their freedom, a judge would have to agree with the recommendation and then a parole board approve their release. 3 journalists have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a building known to be housing reporters in southeastern Lebanon. The attack was carried out on a guest house in a compound in Hasbaya being used by more than a dozen journalists from at least 7 media organizations, with a courtyard containing cars clearly marked with the word press. The 3 men worked for broadcasters Al Manar TV and Al Mayadeen TV, which issued statements paying tribute to their employees. Lebanon's information minister said the attack was deliberate and described it as a war crime. Officials from the US, Israel and Qatar have said negotiations over a potential Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal are set to resume in Doha in the coming days. A spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said an Israeli delegation will travel to Qatar on Sunday. It is not yet clear whether Hamas has agreed to participate in the talks. The US believes the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar last week, seen as one of the group's most extreme figures, may open the door to an agreement, though Hamas has accused Israel of being the primary bloc to any deal. King Charles has met with the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer in Samoa at a reception for new heads of government on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Summit. Charles officially opened the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa on Friday, which is said to feature talks on climate change and questions of reparations for Britain's role in transatlantic slavery. Starmer said that the transatlantic slave trade was abhorrent and that while history cannot be changed, it should be talked about. King Charles is the symbolic head of the Commonwealth, which is a group of 56 countries, most of them former territories of the British Empire. And striking images from the Sahara Desert show large lakes etched into rolling sand dunes after one of the most arid, barren places in the world was hit with its first floods in decades. The Sahara does experience rain, but usually just a few inches a year and rarely in late summer. Recent NASA satellite data shows nearly 8 inches of rain in some parts of the region. Experts say it's been several decades since there's been this much rain in such a short space of time. Some of the most dramatic images are from the desert town of Mazuga, where the rare deluge carved new lakes into the sand dunes. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The governor of Ogun State, Akwa Ibom, has assured Nigerians and sport enthusiasts of befitting sporting activities in the forthcoming National Sports Festival, slated to be hosted by the state in the second week of January 2025. He made a promise in Abuja, the state capital, while inspecting renovation and construction of new facilities for the festival at different venues in the state capital. The governor expressed satisfaction with the level of commitment and progress of work done so far.
I'm impressed with the level of activities that I've seen at the stadium today. I have been to the location where behind the main pitch, Membo, where the swimming pool, the Olympic-sized swimming pool is being constructed, the warm-up pool, the tennis court, and I do not have a doubt that by the time this whole reconstruction is completed, this stadium will rank as one of the best leading stadiums anywhere in this country. We want to have a world-class sports festival. It will be the first sports festival where all the athletes are in one location. That will be a games village.
Super Falcons head coach Justin Madugu is expecting a masterclass performance from the nighttime African champions as they face a tough test from Algeria's Green Ladies in the first leg of the international friendly at Remo Stars Sport Complex in the Kano, Ogun State on Saturday. Madugu's squad has a large contingent of home-based professionals with only 6 overseas-based players invited for the games, with the second meeting scheduled for Tuesday at the Bobolaji Johnson Arena on Iko in Lagos. The game will be the Falcons' first meeting since below par outing at the Olympics, and the team hopes to restore confidence and positive spirit. Arne Slot says his Liverpool team are matching his expectations after their flying start to the season as he prepares for a tough test against Arsenal. The Reds are top of the Premier League with 7 wins in their first 8 matches. And on Sunday, Slot takes his side to face Arsenal with a chance to move 7 points clear of the Gunners. And on the flip side, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta remains confident that his squad is good enough to recover ground in the standings despite injury concerns. Bukayo Saka, Ricardo Calafiori and Yorin Timber are all injury worries ahead of Sunday's home game at the Emirates Stadium, while midfielder Martin Odegaard is still unavailable. That sports is back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. 2 more bodies have been recovered from the Port Harcourt helicopter crash, bringing to 5 the total number of confirmed deaths in the ill-fated accident. And Amnesty International has applauded the federal government's rejection of the $1.3 billion sale of Shell's onshore assets. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogudu. Have a good night and please stay safe.